Good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order and start, like we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There are no reportable actions taken in closed session. Are there any statements of abstention? Seeing none. Adjustments to the agenda. Board member requests for, hold on. Board member requests for information. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting.
Move approval of the January 11, 2017 minutes.
Second.
Ron, second. Okay, moved by Director Carl, second by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please, Lori.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, C7, recognition of SRCS school counselors.
So Steve Mazzaro will be coming forward here to honor our school counselors for all the work that they do in our district. And joining him appears to be Mariana Ayala, Director in Student and Family Engagement, SAFE. So it is our pleasure to honor tonight the counselors of Santa Rosa City Schools, who I see out in the audience. And as you can see, we're wearing we heart our counselor badges and buttons. So let's get started with honoring you. So please come down and receive your certificate. In no particular order, Deborah Beecher, Abraham Lincoln Elementary School. Mildred Santos Mondragon. Mackenzie Cook. Emily Friedman. Julie Mawad. Lindsay Smith. Nisia Benedetti Deal. Deborah Ball. Jesse Weiss. Alexis Sinsicalco. Jennifer Schoen. Sandra Hernandez. Joseph Walsh. Shelley Schubert. Dan Evans. Robin Wilkins. David McCamish. Marco Garcia Zaragoza. Susan Jablonski. Eric Rodriguez. Lori Chamberlain. Tomas Sanchez. Amy Bartholow. Ashley Proud Moreno. Nancy Alsop. Keith Donaldson. Dorothy Burge. Julie Natalini. Sopir Hung. Melissa Knoll. Forrest Arata. Brian Cox. Cassandra Carl. Carol Ramirez. Kathy Vianello. Maxine Freitas. Amber Bowman. Blair Murphy. Christine Birch Rydell. Kristen Erkin. Locke Tran. Seth Geffner. And now for our college and career counselors. Barry Sullivan. Ismael Gutierrez. Jerry Lee Jones. Richard Paolo. Susan Winters. And now for our SOL counselors, which is supporting our language learners, Dino Battaglini. Dino Battaglini. Salvador Barrera. And Socorro Rojas. Please give our wonderful counselors one gigantic, huge applause for all they do in the district.
Is he coming? Later.
Wait, we want to take a picture. Oops. Could the board members come around and stand with the counselors, please? Sure. Yeah, two. All the red. Great.
Hi, Marianne.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is public comment on items not on the agenda, and I have several speaker cards. Members of the public may address the board on matters within the subject matter of our jurisdiction. After you submit a speaker card, I'll recognize you and please go to the podium. I'll also call the next person so you can be ready. There's podiums up there and down here. We can take no action on items that are not on the agenda today. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes apiece, and if you have comments or complaints about a specific employee of the district, we advise you that the matter should first be pursued through the proper channels through the administration. So I will call Jeremy De La Torre first, and after that will be Jill Jackson.
Raise this up here, sir.
Thank you.
Good?
Yep. Ready? Good evening. First, I just want to start by welcoming the new members of the board. This will be my first time speaking in front of you, and really thank you for taking the time and giving your time and energy to this school district. I'm here tonight to speak on concerns I have as a concerned parent and a concerned member of this community regarding coaching and the coaching shortage that we are dealing with in our district. Specifically, Maria Carrillo has 1,600 students, and our track and field team has 10% of our student population on the team, and we've been struggling for the last 3 years to find any appropriate coaches to connect with these children. What's disheartening the most is we have a prime candidate ready and available and has been trying his hardest to be able to coach at Maria Carrillo, but due to a district policy, that is not an option, and there are no exceptions. And the fact that there are no exceptions is very hard to hear when it comes to public schools, and it sends such a harsh message to our students that if you ever make a mistake, you will live in the shadow of that mistake for the rest of your life. This man has made a mistake 27 years ago when he was 18. He paid his debts as a society, and nobody's saying what he did was okay in any way, shape, or form, but he made the mistake at the age of 18. He's been a pillar to this community and has had a spotless record for nearly 3 decades, 27 years. But due to that one mistake he made when he was 18, he cannot make it through the human resources process to be allowed to be a volunteer coach. We're not asking to pay this man. We're not asking to put him on staff. We're asking him to be allowed to be a volunteer coach. But due to the district policy, the conversation could not go any further. I have petitions with hundreds of signatures in support of Herbie Polk. I have several personal testimonials. I personally trust this man with my son's life, but we cannot bring him into the coaching ranks. The track and field team, the cross-country team, several other teams are in a huge shortage of coaches. Gone are the days where your English teacher was your basketball coach. It's just not available anymore. So we need to find a better way to reach out and find resources to be allowed to coach our student athletes. I ask that the board try and find a way to open a dialogue and review the policy and find ways to be a little more flexible with the policy and look at this on a case-by-case basis and not just a blanket statement that if this box is checked, you no longer move forward in the process. We need to set a better message. We need to set a better tone. We need to come together for our children and show them that we understand, and if a mistake is made, there may be circumstances that you can get through that. So that's my main point here tonight. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for listening to me. Mr. Polk has been fortunate enough to become a private coach with heart and soul, speed, and endurance. Has been training our athletes as a private coach for several months, and the results have shown themselves. We just need to find a way to allow the man to volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Jackson and then Lorraine Martinez.
My name is Jill Jackson. I'm a very proud and dedicated educator in Santa Rosa City Schools. I recognize many of the people here as being longtime servants for the good of our district. I'm very pleased also to acknowledge the many programs we've undertaken in the last several years to improve what we offer our students. However, I am standing here, and I know that many of you on the board are just very new to your positions, and I don't mean to insinuate in any way that anyone in particular is responsible, but I am an informed person. I was aware that there was a likely budget shortfall expected even before the governor's State of the State speech yesterday. I don't understand how we could have fallen so egregiously in shortfall, and I'm wondering whose job it was to provide oversight for the accounting error that accounts for this ginormous sum. Insofar as the retirement costs that are part of the three main reasons that were at least attributable to this shortfall, it's been known for about 3 years that because of a state mandate to increase the shortfall in STIRS, that the district was going to have to bear a greater burden of our retirement costs. That was not something anyone could claim to be blindsided by. And it's to be represented as a significant amount of this shortfall, I think, is erroneous and leaves a bad impression with our community. I think it's also more than ironic that at this point where we're entering, sort of the final stages of negotiation, that we're being asked once again to be forbearing and patient. But it's not lost on any of us that we're going to have to pay for some forensic accounting now to find out just exactly how this happened. I feel particularly sad because I feel that it's possible, quite possible, that our community has lost faith in our good faith request of them for bond money. I don't know if in the near future we can go back to the citizens of Santa Rosa and ask for money if we don't prove ourselves good stewards of it. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine Martinez, and then Emily Lou.
The green light's not on. Oh, is it on? Oh, sorry. Good evening. I am Lorraine Martinez. I teach at Maria Carrillo High School, a proud employee of this district for over 30 years. We have sacrificed, classified, and certificated. Those of you that have been on the board know that very well. Those of you that are new to the board perhaps don't know the story. We took furlough days so that we would not lose educators. We took pay cuts so we would not lose educators. We lost our librarians all through the district. We brought back the career and college positions, but those were basically first done by classified. We had it for over 10 years, very successful with a classified employee. And then that went away when the recession started, and now it's back, and it's very nice to see. But we need to be cognizant of the fact that the classroom is what matters the most. We have to solve these problems. We have to be transparent, which I truly believe is going to happen tomorrow. We have to understand where the teachers who have been here for so many years are coming from, and their anger and their disappointment at the system, at our district. They don't know who to blame. Is it the past superintendent? Is it the past people? I don't know. We do know, though, our great superintendent did get a 5% raise when she was hired. That kind of hurts a little bit, too. We weren't in the position we were then when that happened. But where people are pondering, okay, 5%, shouldn't we get equal? Aren't we worth it also? You have a huge job in your hands and a huge responsibility to ensure that the cuts do not go to our classrooms. We have to be responsible for that. Take it away from us as much as possible. Maybe we stop some programs for a couple years till we get solvent again. I don't know, but we have to solve this together. And I am a very positive person. I like to smile. And I truly believe that together we will think out of the box and we will come to a solution that's not going to be perfect, but it's not going to hurt so bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Lou and then Jim Carroll.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Emily Liu. I'm a senior at Maria Carrillo High School this year. Last year, I came to Superintendent Kitamura with a proposal that would involve more student voice in the students' education in our district. And I'm happy to announce that this February, our district will be holding our first Student Voice Conference. We will invite 200 randomly selected delegates from all the middle schools and all the high schools in our district to share insight about their education. Last week, student leaders who will eventually facilitate this conference gathered to brainstorm the key issues that our delegates will eventually discuss. And they will focus on courses, funding for extracurricular programs, food, cleanliness and safety, counseling, and Common Core. Our delegates will then collaborate to form proposals that we hope they will present to the school board in the near future. I invite you to attend this conference. It will happen on February 2nd, that's a Thursday, from 9:30 to 1 o'clock. You're free to come, check in at any time, and see our students in action working to improve the education of their peers and students in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Carroll.
Good evening. It's Jim Carroll, Santa Rosa High School. I teach world history, and one of my favorite concepts that I like to stress is that of the social contract. In brief, and not to be too patronizing, the social contract is an implicit agreement among the members of a society to cooperate for social benefits. Basically, the people authorize the government to lead, to make decisions, as long as the government keeps in mind that they have been entrusted with the power for the people and not for themselves alone. I feel that our social contract is breaking. In particular, that it has become a priority to check off boxes that make Santa Rosa City Schools look good in the eyes of Sacramento, rather than tending to and nurturing the garden that is both the staff and the students of this great district. How much money has to be spent on programs like Innovate Ed and language that result in negligible change? This has become a district that people don't want to work for. If you find yourself saying that is not true, you're not being honest with yourself. I'm sure that if you dangle a job long enough, you'll eventually find takers. But is that really the district that we want to be? This should be the place that teachers want to begin and end their careers. Sunday, after the PD article, a good friend of mine has been accepted to the SCO internship program, said, and I quote, "I know one district I won't be applying to." This is a person who needs a job, and she's not going to even consider the largest district in Sonoma County in the city where she lives. Something is broken. With all the doom and gloom our administration is spouting these days, I can't help but fear layoffs and furloughs. It's already been mentioned tonight. Combine that with increased health care costs, how do you think your people feel? Is it our fault that $3 million were unaccounted for? Is it our fault that we can't pay the bills? Has this district forgotten to achieve its mantra, every student, every day, no matter what? That to do that, the teachers must be taken care of? I hold myself accountable to do my job to deliver a quality education for my students. And lastly, and perhaps most worrisome, this is not the first time that I've felt that I represent the enemy to the district office. And that is not how any social contract will succeed. Thanks.
Santa Rosa Teachers Association, Ms. Ola King Clay, do you have a report for us?
I can't see you from here. Let me.
I don't have the glasses on to see, so yeah.
Good evening. Madam President, Superintendent, and Board of Directors, I hope everyone had another wonderful day in your life. The month of January is proving to be a wet and wild adventure, dealing with falling towels, potholes, water puddles, and just plain winter weather. It's growing old. The good thing is that we all know this will come to an end, and the sun will come out tomorrow, and it's only a day away. We SRTA support with 100% the resolution dealing with, hopefully, not the future not the future Secretary of Education. May she never take that post. We cannot stand by and not voice our opinion on an important decision such as this. Decision of Congress will affect our students and the future of public education for years to come if she is confirmed. Together, we will make a difference. With negotiations just 24 hours away, I am confident that both teams will make every effort to work together, compromise, listen, collaborate, and communicate so that we can agree on terms and conditions that will work for everyone. Now for the good news. A special shout goes out to all our hardworking counselors. Thank you very much for giving them the special recognition. I know the two from my site, Dan and Robin, does a lot over and beyond the call of duty, and I'm sure at every site, someone would say the same thing about their counselors. And words of wisdom for today. As I was driving into work this morning, 5:45, listening to my music, and guess who came over? One of my favorite hard rock person. His words, knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. These are the famous words by, yes, the great musician, Jimi Hendrix. And as he would say if he was standing here, peace out.
Thank you, Ola Kingley. CSEA, is Tammy here? Do you have a... Hello, Tammy, welcome.
Hello. Good evening. We would like to share our agreement with SRTA in support of your resolution to oppose the Secretary of Education. We are also curious to see if they will actually send somebody to speak to us about our concerns. That will be a day I would love to see. And that is all that we have to say for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Good evening, everybody. It was one short year ago, February 1st, that I became the interim superintendent of Santa Rosa City Schools. And look at where we are, in many ways, many ways. One that is very difficult for me to talk about, but I'm going to talk about, has been brought up tonight, and that is the budget. What I will share with you, and I shared in an email to staff, all of staff, maybe some of you received it, and I'm sorry, the public probably didn't. So the governor's news was devastating. There were things that we did not foresee or expect in terms of funding levels, and I'm not going to go into detail here. With regard to the pension, which was also brought up, yes, there was an expectation of it going up, but not to the degree that anybody could predict all across the state. And what's happening to our budget and in our district is also happening throughout the state. But this is about Santa Rosa City Schools. And I hear you and I hear the public and the emails and people who have contacted me. We definitely want to keep our reductions away from kids as much as possible, kids in classrooms as much as possible. And we are committed to working together with our stakeholders through the committees we've developed in order for that to happen. We have created 5 forums. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 forums that the dates and times are available here down here. We'll have them posted on our website so that we can inform you about the budget, because there were some inaccuracies that were portrayed in the newspaper. So we want to tell you what actually is happening with that, and also gather feedback from you as well. And so I know this is a difficult time, and I know that you are looking at us as a district, everybody in the public, and can we resolve this and solve this? Is it doable? And I say to you, yes, it is. It is. But we must do it together. We must do it together. Sorry. I know that through adversity will come a stronger district with efficient fiscal systems that we can all count on. I also want to say, because of things that may have been said, and I know questions that have come up, this isn't about blame. And someone said that as a speaker, and I greatly appreciate that, because it does us no good. What we have to do is move forward. What we have to do is move forward. And I want us to do that together. So please know, we too, the Board of Education, the district office staff, wants to keep reductions as far away from the kids as possible. And you all know me. You know where my heart is. You know my heart is with kids. And so please join us at these forums. Please let us hear your voice to this as we move forward to resolve this issue, because we will.
Thank you, Diane. Board President report. I'm going to save my time so that I can talk as long as I want at F2. But I will say that well, the one thing I'll say is that I share the superintendent's confidence that we're going to be able to resolve this in a way that is collaborative, in a way that's going to result in a more efficiently run district. So with that, we have board member reports. Director Sheffield?
No report.
Director Anderson? Director Carl?
I'll be brief. I had a chance to have my first liaison site visit yesterday. Was at Slater. Had a chance to talk with the superintendent and others in the office, and I'm going to be going back in the next couple of weeks to go into the classrooms, specifically looking at technology use. I think they're very proud of what has been happening at Slater and the use of technology and the substantial gains that students have seen as a result of that. We discussed their facility issues. It is one of our older schools. They're looking forward to the roof repair of the gym soon. As Jason well knows, having left that school, he knows what issues are there.
Exactly where to place the buckets.
Yeah, I understand. The principal also indicated that they didn't know whether this was a function of great feeder schools or things that they've been doing, but they're a good crop of kids the last couple of years through, and they've been having a lot fewer issues between kids. Actually, when I walked in there was a kid with ice against his face, and I thought for sure that he'd been cold cocked, and I was glad to know that he had just face planted out at the in the basketball court. So good things happening there. Two things relative to that. They, in October, they did some really strong work around bullying, and they had what were called bully ribbons. Having had a pediatric nurse who always dealt with billy ribbons, it was hard to pronounce that. But the students would walk out to the fence during the 4 weeks of October and choose another student, and each put a blue and a orange ribbon out there on the fence to represent the fact that a child is bullied on a national statistic every 7 minutes. And they were going to leave them out there for the month of October just as a visual thing for kids to focus on. They're still out there. If you have a chance to walk through there, you see that, and that visual sense of camaraderie and the need to care about other kids was, I think, really palpable there. Good thing. And then Brian Stowe did have a chance to go there, and we all kind of wondered whether that would work at a middle school level, whether they could be attentive and pay attention to it and see what was going on and get information out of that. And it worked incredibly well. So good things happening there. The principal was very clear about the fact that she loves every one of their staff. She didn't want to lose anybody. She's very pleased with the way they're pulling together and working and seeing really good things happen with students at Slater. So it was a great visit.
Thank you, Director Fong. Director Christoph.
Just a couple of things. First of all, Christine Snyder was here at our last board meeting and invited people to go to the Pioneer High School crab feed, which I did. And I want to thank Jim Lands and Betty Castino and Christine and Tim and all those who participated in putting on the event. The kids were wonderful. The culinary kids, Rob DeLillo runs a great program there, and people work very hard. They filled the Friedman Center. It was a very successful event, very enjoyable event, and I did reflect on our fundraising opportunities and endeavors in this district after the fact. And then I started thinking, Pioneer that was a great job. They really did a good job. They filled the Friedman Center, but Santa Rosa High School fills the Memorial Building. And then I started thinking about some of the schools don't have crab fundraisers and don't have fundraisers. So, we have some great models, and I think what I came away thinking is that community with it that was there, that spirit, teachers from many years ago, the students, parents, and, just people from the community. I think it's just a great, activity that I'd like to see duplicated at all the schools. So it was, again, kudos to all the Pioneer people. It was a very nice event. And then I want to put a plug in for Fiesta Night, which is Friday night at Biela School, 5:30. They're going to have tamales. They're going to have mariachi music. They're going to have games, and I heard Aztec dancers too. They've got to be pretty old, but at any extent. It should be a very nice evening, so you're all invited to come to that as well. Thank you.
Ron Christoph, one night only. Okay, we have no board committee reports, and Director Pugh is not here tonight, so we also don't have a CSBA and SBA report, so we'll move to consent items.
Move items E1.
Actually, hold on one second, let me interrupt you. I have one. Yes.
Director Pugh is not in attendance because he's actually in Washington, D.C. being interviewed for president-elect of the National School Board Association. So everybody please give him a yes, if you're watching.
All right, thank you. And I have one clarification on the consent items. The point of clarification is that items E7 and E8, the funding for those is reported as CTA grant-funded positions, but these are actually base grant-funded positions. With that.
Okay, with that notation, I'll move items E1 through 12.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Okay, so moving on to the F items. F1 is an action item, resolution recognizing February 6th through 10th, 2017 as Week of the School Counselor.
President Close, board members, and Superintendent Kitamura, we would like to consider Resolution 2016-17-039, recognizing February 6th through the 10th, 2017 as the Week of the School Counselor.
Great, thank you.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Director Carl and second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please, Lori.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passed. Moving. We can give another hand for the school counselor. Okay, F2, an action item, resolution in opposition to Betsy DeVos, nominee for Secretary of Education.
So, President Close, members of the board, we respectfully bring forward this resolution in opposition of Betty DeVos, nominee of Secretary of Education, for many, many reasons. And so I will actually refrain, because you would have me on the mic for a long time, and would refer back to you, President Close.
Thank you, Superintendent. I talked to Directors Carl and Pugh and confirmed that this resolution is unprecedented for this board. But I thank the administration for preparing such a strong resolution and doing it on short notice, because it's unprecedented, because this is not a normal situation. I don't think it's normal to nominate someone for Secretary of Education who has zero experience in education. It's not normal for a nominee to be someone who chose to send her children to private schools only. It's not normal for a Secretary of Education to advocate for the use of public funds in private schools. It's not normal for a nominee to be a strong proponent of for-profit charter schools. It is not normal for a nominee to be part of a school choice program that decimated a public school system. For this and many other reasons, we've brought this resolution forward. And with that, I will actually turn it over to public comment. I have one blue card. If anybody else has anything, you can get them to Lori. The first blue card is Judy Osborne Shaw.
Hi. I teach special education with Ridgeway High School. I teach young adults in the central kitchen. We run the cafe that Dr. Kitamura, I want to see you at. And any of the board members, come on, visit us. I've been teaching special education for 30 years, back when it was PL 94-142, not IDEA. And a Secretary of Education who doesn't know what IDEA is terrifies me. We need somebody there that's looking out for all our students. The students with the most challenges, the students with the least money, the students that need us the most. And it's not the person that's been nominated. So I really thank the board for this resolution. In this day of dire news, I think that that is a bright light, and I commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Will Lyon. After that, David Salm.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Will Lyon. I teach English at Santa Rosa High School, and I'm the vice president of our union. I want to give everybody an emotional fist bump all the way around. Everybody gets one. I want to thank the board. I think this is unprecedented leadership on this issue. I can't remember anything like it. To come out to try to make a statement on a national level about something that's this political it's risky. It takes political capital. It takes organizing muscle. I'm really proud to work in a district who's willing to take that kind of a stand. Thank you very much for doing that. I don't want to be the bully that we're training our students not to be. Betsy DeVos is an enormous problem for public education. She's the only person who's been nominated as Secretary of Education who is not only seemingly incompetent, but actually antithetical to the mission of the position, which is to support public education. This is not a business. We're not in this to make a profit. We're in this to do the most amount of good for the most amount of people that we can. And we just can never do enough, and we can argue over the little bits, and we can fight over the crumbs. It feels like that a little bit sometimes. But everybody in this room is here for our students, every single one of our students. And the idea of somebody being in charge who isn't interested in helping every single one of our students is scary. And so I'm enheartened that everybody's here. I'm glad you all wore red. My closet has a lot of orange. I had to go buy a shirt, and it was worth it. I'm glad that I did it. I want to call upon everybody else that's here. I hope I'm wrong. I go to Twitter and Facebook, and it's like the damage report. What happened today? Today they cut funding for NPR and PBS. And they're going to silence the EPA. And like every day it's another thing and another thing. We're all going to need to learn to be upstanders. We can't be bystanders. So you give a speech and you write a tweet and you, like, okay, that's not enough. When we all get together and do it like this, I hope it makes an enormous difference. And it's just one. We have to be upstanders. Anytime they threaten our students, we have to stand up. We have to reject it. It's not because I don't like you. It's not because I don't respect you. I can't say you're not my president. I'm an American. You're my president. But I'm just so proud that everybody stood up on this one. Thank you again. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Let's stay strong.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. David Song, and then John Zeller.
Madam President, members of the board, our nation deserves a Secretary of Education who believes in the Education Department's mission to promote student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness, fostering educational excellence, and ensuring equal access. Research consistently demonstrates that low academic achievement is the result of poverty. When researchers control for poverty, American students perform near the top of the world. This shows that low achievement is not due to poor teaching or to low standards, but to poverty. In some urban areas of the United States, the child poverty rate is 80%. In high-scoring Finland, that poverty rate is 5%. According to Bloomberg News, Betsy DeVos has a vision that includes religious academies, charter schools with for-profit management companies, including fully online operators, and specialized public schools. According to Robert Floden, who is Dean of the Michigan State University College of Education, quote, "What sets her apart is that she favors market solutions," end quote. And while market solutions might be okay when selling Amway detergents or makeup, it is not okay with the intention of upending the public model of education. In Michigan, Ms. DeVos aborted a ballot measure on vouchers that failed. She then funded successful efforts in other states, including Indiana, where most of the tax money goes to parochial schools. Ms. DeVos would bring about a radical shift in this nation's traditions and norms of behavior as they relate to our sacred principles of universal public education and the separation of church and state. I encourage this board to take whatever steps it can to block the confirmation of Ms. DeVos as our Secretary of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, David. David, if you have a written version of that, will you give it to Lori, please, to the board clerk? Thank you. And next, John Kelly, here, trustee for Sonoma Valley Unified School District.
Thank you. First, I would like to say thank you to your board president and to your board and to your superintendent. First, for reaching out on Sunday evening, alerting us and several other school districts in Sonoma County that your board was pursuing bringing this proclamation and encouraging us to do the same. Based on the fact that you did so, we had a special meeting this morning at 8 a.m. and we unanimously approved the same proclamation that you are going to review here this evening. So I wanted to thank this board for its leadership for doing that, first of all. Second, as a board, this is an unprecedented moment. In general, we do not take positions on matters that are outside of what we believe to be our subject matter and geographic jurisdiction. However, this is an exceptional circumstance. The issue here is the nomination of an individual who has demonstrated now on national television that they do not have the knowledge required at a basic level, not from a political purpose, but from an operational and administrative purpose to function as the Secretary of Education. And given the fact that we, as school districts, all face direct supervision in our implementation of special education from the Department of Education, this is something that uniquely affects all of our staff, of our families, and of our community. Having said that, I am speaking in my individual capacity tonight, but I wanted to note that one of our other board members noted in our deliberations today that regardless of the position you have on whether vouchers or charter schools or district public schools are appropriate, that this is not a question of your favoritism or inclination towards one of those or the other, but this is a matter of making sure that our government functions at a basic level. And so I want to encourage you to please adopt this proclamation tonight, and thank you again for showing leadership here in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly, and thank you and your board. Okay, so with that, I will bring it back to the board for any comments. Director Kristoff? Oh. Director Fong?
This is my third board meeting. In the first board meeting, or one of the first two, we declared ourselves to be a safe haven, and now we are about ready to adopt this resolution. I'm very proud of our district. I think we are very brave. Two out of three meetings, that's pretty amazing, and the budget as well. So I just want to point out that in my years in this district, I know that when we work together and then when we collaborate and when we're talking and when we're a team, there's no blame, we work together, we solve the problems, however the problems come up. Times change, problems change. We are all here to protect our kids. We are all here to support the staff that works with kids. So that's our strong district. So I'm so proud of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Carl?
Thank you. It's pretty clear to me that when you're dealing with public education and you have somebody in a position in Washington, that they need to believe in public education. And it's pretty clear that with a delay in the vote, that there's some impact that's occurring. Angus King from Maine just came out, independent senator, and said not voting for DeVos. All we need is a few Republicans to get to that point, and we may have what we need, which is a change and a different appointment. If we can have any impact on that, if we can be among a chorus of schools, districts throughout the country, and there are others that are doing the same thing, I don't believe that it'll have an impact at the presidential level, but I think it can have an impact at individual Republican Senate levels, where those folks are going to have to face their constituencies in 2, 4, 6 years on what is probably the most crucial appointment relative to our youth and our future. And I think that's why we're willing to take this step and add our name to the groups of folks that are saying this is really not the person. And I really appreciate John's comments that it's not about school vouchers or charter or those kinds of things, because we can all differ on that, and we can debate those in a public setting. But it's a pure lack of knowledge of the federal laws, the educational laws, and it was really, if anybody watched it, a pretty outstanding job by the people asking questions that you would want from an interview standpoint. She would never get hired as a superintendent in this district. And why would we want to hire her as the superintendent of the United States for all intents and purposes? Operationally, this is just not the right choice.
Superintendent, do you have any? I guess I will wrap it up then. I want to really thank everybody for coming out today and wearing your red. I wear the only thing red-ish in my closet. You know, we borrowed language on this resolution from the NEA and from CTA and from a school district in New York and a school district in Michigan, and I say that because probably they should deserve some credit, but also because I think that it says something when there are these different organizations and groups coming together to take unprecedented action. Local school boards don't usually do this, and Mr. Lyon's right, it is political, but we're taking a political action because it could and would affect our students. And I am here to say that anything that is going to affect our students, whether it comes from the state level or the federal level, is something that I'm willing to speak up against, and I feel pretty confident that our board will too. I do think that this is an opportunity, that there's an opportunity here to make change right now and to influence a few senators. You know, we're going to have a little video and put it up and spread it around on Facebook, but that video is going to then have a list of phone numbers of senators. And to really make a difference, what people have to do is pick up the phone. And that will just take a couple minutes, but that's how we make a difference, is you actually pick up the phone. Don't send an email or tweet or fax or whatever, but you pick up the phone and call one of these Republican senators' office and let them know that you think that this is a terrible choice and why. So I would encourage you here today to do that. We'll follow up and make the, or at least I will on Facebook, and make the numbers available, and you can find them too yourself. And I'd encourage you to ask the people around you who care about this to do the same, and to really get the word out that that's what will make a difference, is to pick up the phone between now and Sunday night. Okay, so again, thank you very much for coming out. And with that, I will receive any.
One other comment about the phone. It's always helpful to do that, and I hope that everybody does it. But they also know that that's a call from California. So I would also encourage you to look in your little list of Christmas cards at home, and who sends it to you and what relatives you have in the states from whom there is a Republican senator that's been elected. Call that aunt, call that uncle, call that cousin, call that business person that you know, or your golf buddy who lives in North Carolina, and tell them, hey, this is really important to me, and I hope it's important to you. Would you call? Because when your call comes in, it's from a constituent, and it has a little bit more punch. So take a little extra time. This is grassroots stuff. This is the only way that we're going to have impact. You know, we had 5,000 people here in Santa Rosa, right outside this building this weekend, who joined an awful lot of people throughout the entire country that says it's important. Unfortunately, I think we're waking up a little too late in one sense, but it's not too late to wake up and have an impact. So I think that's really the message.
Excellent, good point. Call your aunt. Okay, so do I have a motion on the resolution?
Move F2. Second.
Moved by Director Christoph and second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please, Lori.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to take a 5-minute break, in case you didn't hear that.
voice, and they would.
All right, well, I guess we need to get back to work, yeah? F3, resolution declaring February as Career Technical Education Month in Santa Rosa City Schools.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. The board will consider approval of resolution number 2016-17/036, declaring February as Career Technical Education Month for Santa Rosa City Schools.
Are there any questions from the board?
You want to move that? So moved. Second.
Second.
Third.
Man, that was like pulling the football. Okay, moved by Director Christoph, second by Director Carl. Roll call vote, please.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
All right, motion passes, and next is F4, also an action item resolution of authorization of personnel to sign orders on district funds.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Okay, F5, an action item resolution recognizing February 2017 as African American History Month.
President Close, we bring forward resolution recognizing February 2017 as African American History Month, and also to honor the rich culture and traditions of African Americans and the contribution they have made to the United States.
Thank you, Superintendent. Questions or comments?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Director Christoph, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye. Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. And next, F6, a discussion item, overview of mindfulness program at Cook Middle School.
President Close, board members, and Superintendent Kitamura, it is my honor tonight to kind of share with you some of the things that we've been working on at Cook Middle School. With me presenting tonight will be Dr. Hess from SSU. She is the Executive Director of Humanidad Therapy Services. Also is Matt Pollock, our new principal at Cook Middle School, and also Andy Lieberman, Vice Principal at LC Allen. And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a little bit of the history of why we have this program at Cook. We'll talk a little bit about what mindfulness is, how it came to Cook, and how it's being used. And then at the end of this, we'll talk about how it's working and perhaps some next steps for us. Dr. Hess.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. It's really exciting to finally be here to talk to you about this wonderful experiment that's turned into really something that we hoped for, and it's hard to believe it's happening, actually. Mindfulness in this regard, mindfulness has a long history, about 3,500 years esoterically, but what I'm dealing with today and bringing forward for you to share it with us is the mindfulness that was developed about 40 years ago by John Kabat-Zinn, who did research with people who had hard-to-treat pain conditions and long protracted psychological conditions such as anxiety and depression, chronic pain, chronic stress that was irretractable. So what he did was he began this process, and It's a 8 to 10 week process where you go through learning how to control your breath for the minimum of 12 minutes, which then starts to slow the brain waves down and to help rewire the brain function, which is phenomenal, especially when we start looking at the new neurobiology, right, about the importance of the telomeres and mirror neurons and all of that. This all comes to bear as we start looking at mindfulness. This mindfulness practice is a concerted, deep breathing practice. So what is important is that it's done consistently and it's done for a certain period of time, 8 to 10 weeks. With this deep breathing, and it has to be like deep down in the bottom of the lungs, in through the nose, out through the mouth, very precise. Once that is implemented and people start doing it, they start noticing really significant changes, not only in their own behaviors, but how they can impact people around them. What we did with mindfulness, I'm going to move to the next one, is that this is the paying attention in a particular way, non-judgmentally. So it's really looking at the quality of your mind. It's acknowledging the diet of your mind, what comes through your thinking, how you think, but in a non-judgmental way. So part of the way that we talk about it when we do the mindfulness breathing is as if you're looking in a blue sky and your thoughts like clouds move past you. So it's learning how to develop this kind of detachment from the emotional feeling component of our thoughts. And it comes down to really, you can't believe everything you think, right? So Jon Kabat-Zinn was very precise around the fact that what we were hoping for, what he was hoping for was, as he started to see this subset of people who were using this for pain control and alleviating anxiety and depression, what he also noticed is that their overall quality of thinking improved. They became more clear, they became more creative, they became less regimented and locked in old thinking. They had more flexibility of thought and more flexibility in being willing and able to understand other people as well. And basically, the Tibetan tradition and other esoteric traditions talk about mindfulness as equanimity or peace of mind, right? Not a bad thing. The current research for schools in particular are these incredibly wild percentages that when I was working with Lindsay Gannon a couple of years ago, looking at how to create this program, which by the way, we bumped into. We ended up going to Cook because of, Humanidad was invited to come provide counseling through Via Esperanza as an experiment, right? So we were there to sign our MOU, and in the morning at 11, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Andy Lopez was killed. As a result of that, we were on campus in the spring to provide some services through VIA, but one of the things that I put in the MOU was that we'll also do some time at Cook, just in case anybody needed anything from us. Well, what happened was there was a ton of support for the kids, lots of it. But the faculty, the staff, the classified and unclassified and everybody else, not so much. So as we started talking, Lindsay and myself, what we started to notice was there was a certain level of super high stress on this campus, not just with the kids. So as we started talking about this, and we were looking at all these, look at this, better focus and concentration, increased calm, anxiety, improved impulse control, all of those things started becoming relevant to the adults as well as to what we were hoping for our children. We were truly interested in bringing an end to some suffering that we saw and actually wanting to support some happiness and joy. I mean, the campus was dark, let me say. So what we did, let me move on here, is we started to look at what the research was telling us about how to manage self-regulatory stuff, how to help kids who have had such high trauma that they didn't know how to self-regulate. And we started thinking about, okay, and our adults too, right? It's like, what makes us think that our adults don't have trauma? We do. And we saw not only post-traumatic stress, but mostly we saw acute stress. There was no post. It was ongoing. So with the generosity of the campus and the faculty and the staff. They allowed us to truly assess and analyze their campus for wellness. We were invited into their classrooms, we did one-to-one meetings with them, and we started to really look at what did they need to succeed and feel good about being with their children to help them succeed. And we bumped into mindfulness. Well, this was before it exploded, right? Because now it's like international and you have to really go out of your way to not see something about mindfulness. But at the time, this was a coup. So we started looking at that, and Lindsay made the decision at this time that she wanted to talk with her faculty about total implementation. Typically, mindfulness is implemented in phases, and it's only implemented with classrooms and teachers that are, on board, right? But Cook was in a situation where it was like an all or nothing at all kind of a situation. They needed more. So we took the risk, they took the risk. It was really pretty amazing. Whether they were 2 thumbs up or not, they gave it a go. We did a retreat, we trained them in how to teach mindfulness, how to be mindful themselves. And in August, we implemented full campus mindfulness. And by the way, it's the first in Northern California to implement full. And it was, I'd like to say, it was la 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 la, but it was not. It was a little rock and roll, and we got really great results because people were willing to be authentic, transparent, to talk about it. So this whole idea of what we've had to go through. So we went to Visitacion Middle School in San Francisco, which is one of those schools like the schools in Compton where they had 89% resolution. I mean, it was unbelievable. Then we went to see Paper Tigers, and if you haven't seen it, it's well worth your time. And then we started looking at the contemporary data, not only statewide, but we looked nationally, and we started looking internationally, mostly for like, what is the deal, right? Because it's easy to think, well, this is poverty, social, emotional, race, and all those things are true. But when we start looking internationally, we're looking at something else, and in addition to. So we started looking at all of this idea of mindfulness and how it really could impact. And if it's impacting children in New Guinea, and it's impacting children in Sri Lanka, it'll do good by us. And let's see. This is your gig, ma'am.
Thank you, Maria. Paper Tigers, by the way, I think is $9.99 at Amazon on the DVD. How mindfulness works at Cook. We have got signs posted on the doors. Outside the office, we have them on the gate. 8 o'clock to 8:15 in the morning is our first mindfulness session. The second one is 1:40 to 1:55, which is leading into 6th period. Lights are off in the office. Doors are locked. We do have someone on campus. Our student advisor is roaming the campus to make sure we stay safe, but everything shuts down. It's quiet time. Office staff and those on prep period will meet in the staff lounge, and they rotate who leads it with the chimes and the talk and get the mindfulness going. We flow into the end of the day. We start 6th period with the same thing. Substitutes for my secretary and office staff, when they give the subfolder in the morning, they lead them through what mindfulness is going to be. And usually one of us or a Humanidad team member will lead in the classroom where there's a sub. Looking at some data, and before I go through this, I'll tell you we've been hovering around 399 to about 403 students this year. Last year, 385 to 390. So keep in mind, we've been up about 15, 20 students, mostly in 7th grade this year. Disciplinary incidents reported last year through the first week of January. And 1,133 incidents reported. This year, through the first week of January, 784. And as we get further through the year, we're finding a bigger and bigger gap, which we love. Suspensions to the first week of January. 121 last year, 71 this year. Possible effects of mindfulness with grades. Fall of 2015, 186 students had a 3.0 or better, which puts them on the honor roll for 7th and 8th grade combined. This year, 215. 7th grade overall was about 8, 9, 10% higher than last year. We haven't really pushed too much on some other things yet. We're going to do that next year. Another thing to think about as we look at the discipline numbers, we've kind of combined this with restorative and PBIS practices. We're talking to students about You see something, the stimulus and response effect, stop and think before you respond to it. And they're getting a lot of that practice through mindfulness as well. Possible effects of mindfulness, possible. Correlation, maybe, maybe not. We're happy to see the numbers. Almost 2.5% push on attendance, which obviously amounts to $88, which is good. As you can see, people in enrollments, a difference of 10. What staff is saying about it, talking to different teachers, they're seeing a big difference between last year's mood on campus, the behavior in classrooms, and this year. We've heard from English teacher, math teacher, PE. Office staff says the, knock on wood, traffic in the office and the behavior in the office is better this year than it was last year. We still have things to work on, but it's better. Students, talking to 7th and 8th graders alike, 7th graders mostly bought in right away. 8th graders I have them try to remember back to what it was last year, and they say there's a big difference. It's a lot calmer, a lot less strife on campus this year, even in spite of things that have happened the last few months nationally, which did cause some sadness, but a whole lot less strife.
I'd love to share with you just one little example of what I saw with a bunch of 7th grade girls. It looked like they were getting ready to fight. They were putting their hair in the ponytails and taking out the earrings, and they're doing cha-cha. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around 7th graders fighting, but nonetheless, that's what they were doing. And so there was 4 of them there. They're getting ready to get down, and one of the girls goes, "Wait, wait, let's do mindfulness." So they all said, "What a good idea," which shocked me again. And then they took a few minutes. "Let's take 8 breaths." They did 8 breaths. At the end, they said, "Let's go to Food Max." And I was thinking, okay, they're gonna go to Food Max to fight. But no, they went to Food Max, they came out with the little talkies, they were all chatting, and I thought, oh, here we go, mindfulness, here we go. So they availed themselves. It was something they could cash and carry with themselves. It was fabulous. I wanted to also say that with mindfulness, what we're seeing here is a way for not only children, but also staff, faculty, and those of us that are support people to also be able to remind each other to take a moment, to take a breath, and to really disengage. And really, when you look at the short, the short version of what mindfulness is that it's, stimulus, pause, proact, rather than just stimulus response. But it's that pause that says, okay, what do I need to do here to do it well, right? And is this what I want to do?
Okay, so I came here to be supportive of the resolution that was made, and thank you all for making the resolution. But Steve saw I was here and thought maybe I could join this presentation, so here I am. Totally unprepared, but that's all right. This is also kind of interesting. Some of you might know that I came into education through counseling. I worked private sector for a long time, and some of that has to do with this lady right here who, I won't say how long ago, but I took a psych class. I believe it was abnormal psychology from her. That was just a couple years ago. That was sort of inspirational for me to move into the counseling and then off to PPS, and here I am. So kind of neat to be working as peers from student to teacher. As far as Elsie Allen goes, it's really invigorating to be here talking about this. I kind of remember, I think it was 3 years ago, Steve coming here because Chris White had asked me to present to the board to talk about restorative justice. And there were a lot of concerns back then around, well, if we move towards a restorative model, what's going to happen to discipline? And there was a lot of fear around that. And this is another step in that same direction of how do we support kids and teach them other modes of dealing with their anxiety and angst besides acting out. Mindfulness has not gone in the same direction at LC at this point as it has at Cook. It's more on that stratified step-by-step model. There's a couple reasons for that. We did have several teachers ready to move forward at LC, but as a lot of you know, we have also moved forward with an entire new bell schedule, and it kind of can't do both simultaneously. So Maria's been coming to LC, I think we've done our 4th session, I believe. We have a group of about 10 adults on campus, 6 teachers, a couple of the administrators that are participating in the training, and several of the teachers are doing it on a smaller scale within their classroom. I walked down to a class the other day to do a presentation in one of our intensive English classes, and then just as I walked through the door, the little ding went off and they just finished. And the kids were just all very relaxed and ready, and it was great to see. I'm not sure exactly where it will go, again, as we're focused on bell schedule, but there are several teachers, and I think you always have your early adopters. So as I mentioned, we've got about 6 different early adopters who are using that in the classroom. We got our semi-early adopters kind of watching to see what happens. So it's exciting times. The only other thing that I would throw out there is, I've been, this is my 5th year at LC, and as a vice principal, I'm over the guidance counselors. And I've been talking to my guidance counselors for a long time. Why don't you guys do some groups? Why don't you get those kids in there and do some groups with the kids? And they've just been kind of scared of it. But they've gone through the training with Maria and some of the Humanidad with the One Circle, and we're looking at the counselors actually starting to do some support groups with students starting in March. So we're kind of looking right now to pick out which students will participate in that. So great stuff.
I wanted to say one of the things that we're currently working on with Cook, and Matt and I are in the process of really talking with the teachers and really looking at this, is how to keep this sustainable and in-house, right? So that it's not necessary to have consultants come in and do this, but really that the school can manage it. So what we've decided to do is we're going to train the 7th graders who will be next year's 8th graders, and they will be the mindful coaches for the 7th graders as they come in. These 7th graders have taken on mindfulness as if it is their own. And so they are the perfect children to be able to help create the ongoing milieu and support that. The leadership kids are the perfect children to take this on. So that's the next phase now for February and March, is to train the kids to be able to train the kids.
So an area that I just want to make note of is that mindfulness is not the only thing going on at Cook. I want to be hearing voices from my college days, also causation, correlation. We also must understand that there are many, many positive things that are happening. We have clinicians daily that are working. We have our Best Plus. We have GLAD strategies, our Bridge program there. The staff has been highly aware of trauma-informed care and other behavioral and training supports we do throughout the campus. So we certainly don't want to leave the impression that mindfulness is the only result of these changes. It all works together, and we clearly think there are these improvements that are going on, as the staff has mentioned, but we just want to be cautious. There are many, many great things that are going on at Cook, many other programs and many other supports, and so we don't want to leave it with that. But what we will want to leave is this: we've been developing how to move this forward, how to model this, and how to perhaps expand to other sites. And so what we're developing is kind of a tiered structure of what we think a school site could do if they were interested in something like that. So one of the first tiers would be an awareness that we'd have to discuss with the staff what trauma-informed care is, ACEs studies, vicarious trauma, and other things, just to make them aware that what you are bringing as adults can also interact in your school. Remember that mindfulness without mindfulness graphic. That applies to adults as well. And for them to have the pause and the recognition is also a big piece of this. So then another level for other schools to expand would be workshops and really get into the mindfulness work. So one is just kind of an awareness about trauma and how it impacts you as an individual, and then dealing with the workshop pieces. Those are examples where the Cook staff was trained for 2-day retreats, and they really dig deep into what it's about and really understand that. And then the third tier, when the school site would be ready, would be some implementation, some sustainability, assistance from Humanidad or whomever to help them implement that. And so that's kind of where we are right now. So what we hope to do is kind of build that model and see if there's other schools that would also be interested, and whatever tier they are, there's a way we assess and understand where the staff may be, and we kind of give them advice and support on that. And so that's kind of what we're building into the spring for next year. So we of course have questions to consider. What are the connections for mindfulness into Best Plus, and how can we modify the SRCS infrastructure to allow trauma-informed care and education model to be the basis for district-wide change and transformation. That's a big statement. We know we're moving in that direction. One thing we want to leave you with, we would be remiss if we did not follow our own practices, and so we, on a handy little app, we're going to do 1 minute of mindfulness. So Maria will walk you through what that means for you, and we'll do a quick timing, and we'll do a moment with us. So help us through.
So now remember, typically this is done 12 to 15 minutes. So you're getting the speed version. So what we do is we tell the children to sit in your mindful bodies, which is to sit upright with your feet on the floor and your hands relaxed in your lap. And only if you feel comfortable to close your eyes, or just to softly, just soften your vision so you're not staring at anybody or looking at anything in particular. And then we would ring the chime. And to take a moment to breathe deeply through your nose all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. Just take a moment to feel the expansion in your lungs. And let your shoulders drop and your body be held by the chair. And let yourself breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And if you notice any tension anywhere in your body, let it go with your exhale. And if thoughts come into your mind, no judging, just notice they're there and take another breath. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hess. Thank you, Mr. Lieber and Mr. Pollack. Board members, and we're ready for audience questions or board member questions?
Before we do that, I noticed that Catherine Howell is in the audience, a teacher at Cook. Would you like to say anything, Catherine?
Sure.
Come down.
The quickest minute of mindfulness ever, right there. I was like, where's the other 11? So I stayed really to see the statistics because the teachers at Cook really haven't seen them as far as the discipline. And I agree, the campus is calmer, the campus is lighter in terms of attitude of the students, and I think it has really helped the teachers. As a teacher who was there on campus during the Andy Lopez years of darkness, it was traumatic, and we were traumatized by it, there was no question. And so Maria and Humanidad actually helped us, the teachers, get into a better place that we really felt that we could help the kids, right? And without that initial helping the teachers, we wouldn't be there, right? So in terms of the actual implementation, it was rough. It was a rocky first 2-3 months trying to get a group of 7th graders to understand and comprehend and sit quietly for 10 to 12 to 15 minutes is a challenge. And the hardest part for me was letting go of the teacher, the correcting of the behavior. How do you keep them quiet? Should I be keeping them quiet? The shushing, that's been absolutely the hardest for me, is letting go of that. But just realizing that if I'm calm, if I'm mindful, they'll anchor to me. They'll pull their focus on to the quietness that I have. And there's a lot of kids that really are buying into it. I think we're going to be able to come up with a group of 7th graders that can facilitate and train and be prepared for next year to keep it sustainable. The one worry that I might have is the new teachers. We have had, even since we implemented in August, we've got 3 or 4 people on our campus that have had no training in mindfulness at all. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Also, the fact that all the training we did have, which was amazing, was voluntary. It was actually in the summer, it was paid, but it was after the school year had ended. So there were teachers that chose not to attend. So I think that, some sort of sustainability in terms of continual training or using some of our professional development days for mindfulness would be great. I'm also really happy that Elsie is going to try to continue it. I think there's some of our 8th graders that would be happy to hear that it's happening at Elsie next year. They really like the program. It calms them. I have 8th graders first period and 7th graders 6th, so I see both groups and how they react to it, and they like it. It's good for them. It calms them. A lot of kids are rushed, the bus, the parents, the dropping off, having everything ready for the morning, and the fact that they can come in and just be quiet and sort of pull their thoughts together, I think is a great thing for them first thing in the morning. So that's all, unless you have questions.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Director Carl.
Thanks. One thing I didn't hear about was reaction from parents. Is there anything beyond just an anecdotal? Obviously, this isn't what most parents would expect, and I suspect most kids come home and tell them what they did, and I'm curious what kind of reactions you've had.
One of the things we're thinking about next is to send a phone call home to parents through our auto dialer a couple times, and in the student newsletter it's going out there this month, that we want to survey them to talk to their students. Get a feel from their students what it's like. I think the 8th graders might be more key because they have something to compare to last year versus this year. 7th graders, this is a new experience. We want to get a feel from them. We're going to start building with the newsletter that goes out here in the next few weeks.
Have you had any parents that have called up and asked, what's going on?
Oh, yes. However, I haven't talked to anybody on the phone. They come to the quiet time. So if you're on campus at 8 o'clock, you're ours.
That's right.
So they
You
go
participate.
to the staff lounge and they do the mindfulness with the group. And the parents that have done that have said, oh my gosh. How we prepared the parents is we started sending home a newsletter in May. And we sent it May, June, July, August. And along with it, we told them about the dangers of caffeine and some of these snacks that the kids eat that are neurotoxins. And please reduce the numbers because it'll negatively impact the mindfulness. And I've been really kind of impressed by the parents saying, well, I don't understand it, my kid hates it, but we're going to give it a try.
Thank you.
Director Fong.
I'm very impressed by this. It's 30 minutes a day, is that right? 5 days a week? So it's two and a half hours a week that we could say it's non-instructional time. But if we really think about children's brains, I'm no brain expert, of course, but I've read a fair amount. When we really talk about children's brains developing and teaching them how to pause and to develop that part of their brain when they may have been traumatized before and everything we know about ACEs and all that and trauma, this is perfect. I like that you have metrics, and I know that it's really difficult to tease out what is best and what is restorative and what is mindfulness, but we have to do all of it to help our kids, absolutely. Those 10 fingers together, yes. So I praise the Cook staff for taking this on so wholeheartedly, and good for you guys and Elsie. Thank you.
Okay, well, I really appreciate the report and the work that you're doing. I think this is huge, and I really agree with the comments that Director Fong made. You could say this is non-instructional, but probably it's really helping with all instructional time and making the most of that. And so I look forward to this really growing, and I thank you for your sharing your experiences, Catherine. I wanted to tell you one quick story that I thought that you guys actually might appreciate. It's a pretty moving experience for me, and that is that when I was running for re-election, I went to talk to Mr. Petty's class, which I think probably everybody did because he invites all candidates, and at Elsie. And he asked me just to do like your regular spiel, like you would do to any group of potential voters. And part of my regular spiel was that we've made these changes in the district for the last few years, and aren't they great? And that includes restorative justice and different kinds of restorative practices, and including mindfulness. And I said I thought that probably made a really big difference in dealing with the aftermath of Andy Lopez's death. And Mr. Petty stopped me and he said, Jen, these are Andy Lopez's peers. At which point I had to take a moment and gather myself, and which I do now too. And so I stopped and I said, well, then why don't you tell me? And they all got very serious and expressed their gratitude for the changes that the district had made. Well, but they talked about it from a school level and about all the support that they had. They talked about sitting in circles. They talked about what they called meditation. And they said that it made all the difference. And they were very, very thoughtful and grateful in their responses. So congratulations to you, because I think you did make a huge difference in how our kids managed that and recovered from that.
Thank you so much for the feedback.
Okay, well, I look forward to hearing more for another report. Okay, so moving on to F7, discussion item, career technical education update.
We're just getting organized here. Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight, Director Bettini will give a CTE update. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you. Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, and members of the board. I am very pleased to present to all of you an update on our career technical education programs. I thought it would be nice to start off with what is career technical education. So as defined by the California Department of Education, career technical education is a program of study that involves a multi-year sequence of courses that integrates core academic knowledge with technical and occupational knowledge to provide students with a pathway to post-secondary education and careers. And currently in Santa Rosa City Schools, we have 21 programs, and there's a document that was included in your board report that outlines the various programs offered throughout our district. Our programs represent 12 of the 15 CTE industry sectors, and they're all aligned to the CTE model curriculum standards. And up on the screen are actually pictures of our kids throughout the district representing all of our schools. The 11 elements of a high-quality CTE program from the California Department of Education is really driving our work around CTE in the district. In the spring of 2016, each CTE program in Santa Rosa City Schools utilized a self-review tool that is aligned to the 11 elements of a high-quality program to really look at how their program is doing. So they're able to identify strengths and areas of growth as we continue to move forward and improve our programs. And tonight, I'd like to share with the board some of the key highlights of our work we're doing in CTE related to these elements. In order to continue to provide high-quality CTE programs, I am extremely excited to share with the board that we have formed a Santa Rosa City Schools CTE advisory to provide assistance and recommendation for the continuous improvement of our CTE programs. Included in the packet is a list of the committee members and also reflected on the screen. As you can see, we have representation from our CTE department chairs at our schools. We also have a college and career counselor, and we also have a variety of industry representatives, which I'm also excited to share that some of the industry representatives also are parents of our students in our schools, so it's nice to have that reflected on the committee as well. The first CTE advisory committee for our district took place on November 14th. And the committee, as a part of our meeting, identified the goal of developing a career-ready certificate for our CTE programs that not only represents the soft skills that our industry really claims that is a strong need for our students to develop in our programs, but they also wanted to reflect the technical skills. So it could be industry certification or some sort of skill assessment specific to an industry sector. So I really like that it's not only soft skills that we hear often, but also those technical skills as well. Probably one of the most exciting outcomes of that meeting is afterwards, I had a couple of the representatives come up just elated to be included and to be able to provide recommendations and to have an impact on our programs, so much so that they wanted to have another meeting before a scheduled meeting in March. So we developed a subcommittee to work on a draft of the Career Ready certificate to bring forward to the next meeting in March. So just, again, I was very pleased with the excitement of our partners, and I just walked away from that meeting feeling very fortunate to live in the community that we do, and the excitement to really partner with us to continue to improve our programs. So in the spirit of system alignment and coherence, specifically in cross-curricular collaboration, we're continuing our work with the Sonoma County Office of Education through the Northern California Career Pathways Alliance grant to support the implementation of a linked learning approach at our sites. Again, the linked learning approach offers students a rigorous academic curriculum integrated with a career focus and work-based learning opportunities in and out of the classroom. This approach really centers on the goal of graduating students to be both career and college ready. So as you can see, we have programs that are within the grant at Montgomery, specifically in environmental resources, LCM High School, their public safety program, and then Pioneer High School, their health science program. The programs at the schools have participated in externships for the last 2 years, and then this past year we had for the first time a Linked Learning Summer Institute, which was really great because it was 4 days for our teachers to actually have paid planning time to develop curricular units that were integrated. We had 13 Santa Rosa City Schools teachers participate in the Summer Institute, and we got some really positive feedback on that as well. And you can see there's a couple pictures from the Institute down on the screen too, where they're doing some mapping for the year. And then there's a discussion with Windsor High School about the projects and getting feedback, which was really neat too, because they were able to develop deeper relationships with other teachers in the county. In alignment with the NCCPA work, we are continuing to work with our work-based learning coordinators, and so what that really looks like is bringing industry in to the classroom, as you can see on the screen. It's a public safety unit that they did, and we actually had some folks come in and give feedback on student projects, and then also taking students out to industry. So whether that be in an industry tour or job shadows or things of that nature, we're still doing that work through the grant. But what's really exciting in our district is that not only are we doing the work in the grant, but for the first time this year, we've expanded it to all 6 of our high schools. So not only the students in these CTE programs in the grant are getting these wonderful experiences, but we're really working hard to provide that opportunity to all students, both CTE and core academic as well. So we're going to continue to collaborate closely with the Sonoma County Office of Education to support the expansion of this approach. So what that could look like is additional professional development opportunities, more job shadows and externships for our teachers, experiential visits for teachers and site administrators so they could actually see the approach in action. It's really helpful when you go to another school and see it working and learn best practices from another site. I do want to acknowledge that it is really a new way of doing education. It's a new approach, and so it does take time, but I'm really pleased with the progress that we've made thus far and the commitment specifically of these 3 sites and the work that they're doing because it's really good for kids. Another area that we're focusing on is expanding our partnerships with our post-secondary partners. Specifically at Sonoma State, we have a STEM certificate agreement. Again, STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That started in 2014, 2015, that school year. And what that STEM certificate entails is students need to take 6 STEM-related courses, and there's a community service component as well as a science inquiry project component. And if they do that, then they actually get a STEM certificate, which if they earn a STEM certificate and meet the admissions requirements to get into Sonoma State University, those students get priority admissions to a non-impacted major in the School of Science and Technology. So currently, to date, this has been in effect for 2 years, 203 students have earned a STEM certificate at Pioneer High School. And as we know, Pioneer High is working really hard at being, a STEM school. And so this is just another area that I was excited to highlight and share with the board tonight. We also have a very strong relationship with the Santa Rosa Junior College. We have been working on CTE articulation agreements where students can actually earn college credit while they're in high school. Included in your board packet is a summary of the 2015-2016 countywide credit by exam outcomes. And since 2010, in our school district, 189 students have earned 483 SRJC units through the credit by exam it is awesome, but credit by exam option. So again, very exciting to share, and we're always looking to expand in this area. This year we expanded to floriculture for our agriculture programs, and we are in the final stages of possibly securing one for our culinary arts and hospitality programs, which are offered at Carrillo and Pioneer High School. We are, this year, we just started on the 17th of January. We are offering or piloting a medical terminology course at LC Allen High School, so a concurrent enrollment opportunity. And where that really stemmed from was LC Allen's student interest. They have a health center on their campus, and so the site said, gosh, we'd really love to offer something for our students related to the health industry. And so we were able to get a concurrent enrollment course that's offered after the school day, so it's after school, where students can start learning medical terminology and receive college credit and explore the field. We're working on course mapping, so we're working on articulating our programs with the SRJC. So again, that system alignment piece, and right now we're focusing on manufacturing, which is pretty exciting. And then another new thing that we did this year is we piloted an SRJC CTE tour for ninth graders. The first school that we did it at was LC Allen High School, and we had 174 ninth graders that we took to the SRJC to tour the CTE programs, and that happened on December 2nd. And the tour was not only designed to increase awareness of the options that the SRJC has to offer, particularly in CTE, but really we felt that focusing on ninth graders, students can see the connections early on between the programs and courses we offer at our high schools and the opportunities that are available to them once they graduate. So on the screen, on one side there's some students for the Pioneer High School STEM certificate doing one of their presentations, and then on the other side there's actually some pictures from the SRJC tour that we took, and the kids had a really wonderful time, and the feedback we received was really positive as well. Some additional items we will always continue to work on as well are continuing to seek A through G approval for CTE courses. And again, A through G refers to the University of California and the California State University requirements to get into college. So it's the high school requirements to gain entrance. And there's a list of A through G approved CTE courses in the board packet, so we'll continue to seek A through G approval where it's appropriate. Our next kind of courses that we're seeking immediately to explore seeking A through G approval on are the Food Science and Nutrition course, an Introduction to Computer Programming course, and an Agriculture Soil Chemistry course. In regards to credentialing, all of our CTE teachers are highly qualified to be in the classroom, and they're doing a great job. And I'm pleased to share that we have worked hard in our district to meet the requirements of CTE teachers possessing the appropriate CTE credential eligible, to make them eligible, their programs eligible for CTE and Senate and Perkins grant funding. So it's possessing the right teaching credential to be eligible for that grant funding to support their programs. And so I'm pleased to say that we've worked hard and assisted 8 teachers in securing the CTE credentials. So not only are they highly qualified, but now they are able to access the federal and state funding that our district receives, which is very exciting. Although we're not at 100%, we're definitely in a much better place, and we'll continue to collaborate with the Sonoma County Office of Education on credentialing, and then our HR department as well. In regards to instructional materials, again, we utilize the federal Perkins funding and the state CTE incentive grant funding to really purchase a lot of our instructional materials and equipment to make sure that we are providing the tools and the resources that are relevant and current in industry. And so the way that works in CTE is the programs actually identify their needs, and then as a committee, the CTE department chairs come together and we discuss the requests, and then we determine allocations for that year. Some of the bigger items that we've purchased utilizing that state and federal funding include a CNC machine, which is a plasma cutter, or some computer labs, and I really want to thank at this time and appreciate the board for the approval of the request for bid for the ag vehicles for the Alcion High School and Santa Rosa High School agriculture departments, as well as the CTE vehicles that we're looking to utilize district-wide for our programs. I really appreciate that, and I'm also extremely appreciative of the approval of the culinary mobile unit. I really think that's going to be a great thing for the culinary programs, again, at Pioneer High and Marie Carrillo High School, not only to teach those culinary skills, but also that entrepreneurship, business-related skills. I'm not sure if you are aware, but it's really unique to our district, too, that we're doing this. When we were exploring this, when Mary Schiller, the culinary teacher at Carrillo, came to me in the summer and said, Debbie, I have this idea. And I'm like, well, let's talk. When we started looking into it, there really aren't many programs, if any, that we could find that have a mobile culinary unit that's tied to their CT programs, or they have it tied to their child nutrition services, or some colleges do. But I really want to, again, thank the board for being innovative and for really supporting that. And the teacher is so excited. And so we can't wait to get that and have that in students' hands and start really, really utilizing it. It's going to be really, really exciting. So, yeah, thank you. Related to professional development, again, the professional development really is focused on industry, and we provide it not only for our CTE teachers, but our college and career counselors and our site administrators. So we're continuously seeking opportunities to grow in the profession. Some of the opportunities that teachers have recently attended, or professional development opportunities teachers have recently participated in, include a California Association for CTE conference, Culinary Art Institute workshops, California Ag Teachers Association conference, or training, things of that nature. And coming up in March, we have the Educating for Careers conference, and we have 7 CTE teachers, 1 site administrator, and 2 college and career counselors signed up to attend that. And then finally, career technical student organizations and leadership development are certainly key components to a CTE program. We currently have existing strong FFA chapters at Santa Rosa High School and Alcion High School, a HOSA chapter at Pioneer High School, and a Skills USA chapter at Carrillo High School, and those are featured on the screen. We had a training this past summer because we really wanted to expand this in our district because it's a really good thing for kids. 8 teachers, HCTE teachers, participated in a Skills USA advisor training during the summer, and I'm pleased to share that we established new Skills USA chapters at Alcion High School and Pioneer High School, and reestablished one at Santa Rosa High School this school year. And up on the board again, as I mentioned, there are some pictures of our CTSOs, of our students, and I wanted to bring attention to the Skills USA one, particularly that's Mary Schiller, a culinary arts teacher at Carrillo, and her students took first place. They were the state champions, and so that enabled them to compete at the national competition, so that they, all of our programs do a really great job, but I definitely wanted to highlight that. That picture, and mention too that the reason behind focusing on Skills USA is because it's the most comprehensive CTSO for our CTE program. So FFA is really specific to ag, HOSA is very health science, but the Skills USA really encompasses all of the industry sectors, and so that's really why we chose to expand in that area. As discussed at previous board meetings, we are looking at enrollment data, not only in CTE, but for all of our courses offered throughout the district. So in the board packet, I have prepared 2013-2016 CTE enrollment data for your review. And up on the screen, you see a sample. And the reason I put this up here is because the packet I provided you is an 8-page packet, and it has a lot of data in it. And so I just kind of wanted to walk you through some of the key areas. I did want to point out, though, that this is not actual data from any of our CTE programs. This is just strictly a sample just to show you kind of what you would be looking at as you go through that packet. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So I wanted to first mention that the data was pulled using an eSchools report. We use that consistently throughout every year that we pulled it. It starts from the 13-14 school year and goes to the current school year. You can see that the different periods are listed, and then there's also the different course offerings that are listed as course 1, 2, and 3, just for a sample. I wanted to point out that anything that is bold, red, or italicized is a student count that is below 20, and then anything that has an asterisk next to it is a combo class. So it could be a level 2, level 3 CTE course that's offered during the same period. In addition to just that general information, I also wanted to note that also outlined in that enrollment trend document is reference to 3 CTE courses that we receive CTE Foundation grant funding to cover the costs associated with offering the course at the site. So the grant funding covers staffing as well as the consumable supply for that course, and those courses can be found and noted on page 2, 6, and 7 of that document. So I wanted to point that out as well, and again, very thankful for our community partnerships for providing grant funding to expand our programs in certain areas. And again, the 11 elements of a high-quality CTE program, industry and workforce needs, and student interests will certainly continue to be a driving force of the CTE program offerings in our district. And in closing, I'll go ahead and pull this up. I'd like to share with the board a video that really highlights our CTE programs and the students, which I believe are our future. So I wanted to end with that. It's video. It's right here. Right. Are we good? It's a super short video, so I don't want to jump the gun because then, you know, you guys will be like, great. The suspense, they'll keep you in suspense. It's really that good. It actually, the first couple times I saw it, I cried a couple times, which is not, I mean, some of you who know me are like, oh, you're not surprised, but, but it's so neat to see our kids, and just, I mean, being a former CTE teacher, former CTE student when I was in high school, I'm really passionate about our programs, and so it's really neat that we are working so hard to offer great programs, and our teachers are working so hard to keep improving. So, we're good? Okay.
Landscape designer one day.
Oh, I'm gonna start over if that's okay. Okay.
I'll be your landscape designer one day.
I'll be your mechanic one day.
I'll be your manufacturing engineer one day.
I'll be your local business owner one day.
I'll be your chef one day.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
We are CTE.
Oops, I'm sorry. So that would conclude my presentation, my update. Are there any questions from the board?
Director Kristoff.
Thank you guys for that report. Thanks, Debbie, very much. I'm very pleased when I visit our schools to see the great stuff that's going on in CTE. And I know with the tough budget times, there's a lot of pressure in the opposite direction as well. You know, I'm not sure how much grant money is out there at this time or anything, but whatever we can do, you know, to be really aggressive to support this and to expand it is, for me, very important. I have a question that in the German school system, they have different schools and some are kind of combinations, and one's called a Realschule, and that is their tech school, but it has in Germany a very high-end connotation that is associated with it. This is a very rigorous school, but they are CTE is what it amounts to. When I've talked to people there and talked to people who have graduated and gone on through the technical colleges, which is a 2-year program, which is like a 4-year program here, these people are making a living wage just about right out of their school. In that system, they have paid internships. And it seems like it's a key component because not only, once you get to a certain point in your education, you earn money for it. It's going to be at a much less rate than, say, a journeyman. But that is an incentive in the system, and then generally speaking, when you go to work, you're at a living wage, which is not necessarily the case in this area. Is there any talk about incentivizing our programs with a series of paid positions? I think that would be really, really an incentive to grow these programs if people knew they were out there.
Yeah, I think that there are certainly opportunities to look at paid internships. And I just want to clarify, you are referring to student paid internships, correct? Okay, yes. And so I think that with the addition of our work-based learning coordinators, I think that really provides us an opportunity to look at expansion in that area because it takes a lot to coordinate the internships. So not only on the student side to get students ready, granted they are receiving training in their CTE program, but you need to make that connection with the industry representatives and the follow-up and things of that nature. And so I definitely think that right now, we're really focusing on job shadows and industry tours and things of that nature, but I definitely think there's an opportunity for internships. One of the things I'm excited to share, and I didn't mention in my report, but since you brought up the question, the construction industry is on the rise. Again, it's looking better than what it has in many years. And so I was actually just at a North Coast Builders Exchange Workforce Development Committee meeting this afternoon, and we were discussing, they developed a construction core program. And so 5 of our students from Santa Rosa High School, and we had one from LC, and students from Ridgeway, they actually participated in a job shadow with construction-related industry reps in the county. And then the next level of that is this summer, this summer there's going to be an opportunity for the students to do 40 hours, 2 weeks of like real live on-the-job training. And then also prior to that, they're going to be having an opportunity to take classes, like usually it's scheduled right now. It's still kind of the details are being worked out, but it's scheduled right now to be on Saturday. And I think it's a really great opportunity to expose kids again to industry and get them connected to industry folks, and the construction industry is really eager to do that. And so I think the more opportunities that we could provide for students, like the construction core model that the North Coast Builders Exchange and in partnership with the CTE Foundation and SCO are really starting to put in the forefront, I think the better off we'll be. So yeah, that's definitely an area of growth.
Okay. I would never expect, given the resources we have, that we could get immediately or even in the near future into a full-blown program. But probably a dozen or more years ago, we had something called the California Consortium. And that was the model. It was, it was pathways in a different sense before the school board adopted pathways. And it was very connected to real jobs. I went to several sites, saw kids training to be park rangers. They had to do the dirty work. They had to do the clearing the paths during the summer. They got paid a small amount of money. But if you wanted to be a forest ranger or get into forestry, there was an opportunity. And when you graduated, you had pretty much full-time work at the low level. That was one example, but there were many examples. I wonder whatever happened to the California Consortium. It just seemed like it was a very successful program, at least what I saw. Do you have any idea that?
I don't. I'll have to look into that and get back to you. But it sounds like a wonderful program that we definitely, if we could learn from that model, it could be something
because it was that connection with the work world and getting paid too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what happened to it, but it seemed like it was working in a lot of places. Thank you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Director Sheffield.
What I wanted to say was that what I really like about what's being done, what you guys are doing now is offering more opportunities for everyone at 6 high schools. I'm impressed with the expanded partnerships, especially in the areas of medical training and ag industry, child development. I see that on here, engineering, tech, culinary skills, not just, what we had seen when I was in school with auto shop and culinary skills, but expanding that out to, just watching this video and seeing this young man making something that's pretty delicious.
Right?
So I just want to, applaud the work that you're doing and just encourage you to keep finding those local partners, knowing that the community's here. And if we're looking at, funding these types of programs, having the support of the business community, the local community is really important.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Director Anderson.
Yeah, I actually wanted to say something along those lines, so I echo that. And I saw some vigorous nodding regarding the grants, and I'm curious if we have capacity and mechanisms in place to continuously be digging those up, because that seems like a really great opportunity. And I also want to say my son did the Cisco program.
Oh, wonderful.
But it was tough because he was college and career, geared, and so finding the time in the day to do both is a huge challenge, and just something for us to, in general, be mindful of. Whatever we do moving forward, to remember that if we want kids to actually be college and career ready, it's tough, and anything we can do to bring in sort of higher level computer work and biotechnology and robotics. It's really for college going technical kids. Some schools actually require that you have computer programming before you even apply. There's a spot on your application of what computer programming class you did, not if you did it. So, for our kids to stay competitive in the college realm, it's really important to keep those, to keep moving forward and, to definitely move on in the more traditional career and college technology or career technology education, but to also look forward and say what's current and what are they going to need in 5 years, because like biotech and things like that right now are super hot, and I'd like our kids to be able to do that too.
Right, absolutely. And to comment on your grant funding, in our district alone, we have just shy of $1.3 million that's helping support our programs. And so that would involve the Perkins, which is a federal grant. We have the CTE incentive grant, which is a 3-year grant. We have as I mentioned earlier, the CTE Foundation grant that funds our courses. We also have the agriculture incentive grant that's specific to our ag programs. And so we're continuously, I agree with you. The more grant funding that we could access to provide, additional resources for our programs, I think the better off we'll be, because we can keep getting those resources in the hands of our teachers and our students. And I appreciate your comment too about looking ahead, because that's definitely something that we don't want to become stale. We want to keep looking ahead and forward thinking, and so we're really preparing our students for futures for both college and career and CTE. Yeah, thank you.
Director Carl.
That was one of 2 comments I was going to make, and I was focusing on the advisory committee. Is there an expectation that the advisory committee will help with vision in terms of where we should be spending resources and perhaps what CTEs we might be setting up in the future, so that that we are anticipating those jobs and anticipating the needs? Is that one of the things that they'll be working on?
Absolutely. I think that what better to get insight on that than from our industry and community partners. And so out of all the things that we've done this year, I think that I am probably most proud of this formation of the CTE District Advisory Committee, because to be honest, I don't remember the last time when we had one in our district. And so I definitely think that we're certainly going to lean on them as a resource and helping us really shape and develop and continuously improve our programs. So absolutely.
Yeah, I think the last time we had it was when we set up our CTE program.
Oh, wow.
Because in essence, that's what we did, is that we went out and formed industry groups to set up what programs were necessary.
Great.
And to determine things like, in the culinary side, is there something that we can get the kids? Yeah, there's a health certificate that you can get the kids, as I recall. I'm going way back on my memory here, but the impact of that was that we had students that were leaving culinary, going to look for a job, and they were beating out other people getting those jobs because they had something that was industry specific and necessary, and they were in a better position. So that kind of dialogue is incredibly critical, and I'm glad to see that up and running. Second thing is, when you go through the 8 pages of trends, One thing sort of jumps out, which is a lot of kids take one class, but the ability to get the second and third class at large enough numbers seems to be an issue. How many kids are actually graduating with a 3-course pathway certificate as opposed to this is an elective and they try something out, taking Auto 1 or Culinary 1 or something along those lines?
Sure. I unfortunately, I don't have that data here with me tonight, but I certainly can get that to the board.
That'd be great. It'd be interesting to understand that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Can I add just my little, some of my parents' experience that kind of having to do the PE on campus freshman year, that new addition this year made it even harder for kids to get to like the 3rd level of a class, because if you have your coursework is full first year, right, then you kind of need to jump on it right away sophomore. It just makes it more challenging for kids to get to that 3rd level.
There's definitely variables that can probably lend itself to some of the numbers that you noticed as you were looking at the enrollment trend data. I mean, it could be even something as simple as the course offerings at the site. So how many course offerings are currently offered at a site? There's only so many number of students that at the site. Something else that we noticed specific to one of our programs that you might see some low enrollment trend data on is there was one program specifically in 4 years they had 3 different teachers. And so that can be very challenging as well. And so, but I appreciate you asking about the pathway completions. I'll pull that for the board for sure.
Okay, well, thank you for that really good comprehensive report.
Thank you.
I think it's a lot of exciting stuff that's going on, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing and to keep it relevant. And I really appreciate you continuing to pursue the A through G certification for the courses, because that sort of addresses the concern that Director Anderson expressed. We don't want our students to have to choose one or the other.
Absolutely.
We'd love them to be ready to make choices later on, which means they need both now. So I really support that.
I want to emphasize the importance of the District Advisory Committee. This has been 4 years in the making because we've been tied to SCO's District Advisory Committee. I don't know if you guys remember that or know that. And we felt that it was very important that we had our own District Advisory Committee related to our CTE programs and the industries that related to them. So Debbie has been Director Bettini has been tirelessly working to pave the way, blaze the trails to have our own District Advisory Committee. So thank you, Director Bettini, for all your work in that area.
Okay, well, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next action item, I screwed something up earlier, so I'm going to try to fix it now. And that is that Director Pugh asked me to make a statement for him on the F2 agenda item. And in all the excitement, even though it's sitting right in front of me, I totally forgot. And he felt very, very strongly about this and was very sorry to miss this meeting. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase his statement, and then I'm going to give the written statement to Lori afterwards. But essentially, he said that he was disappointed in the meeting. He wanted to add his support and urge the board members to support this. He found Ms. DeVos, her lack of experience, very troubling, as well as a seeming lack of real support for a public education system in general. He also made a statement that I think is relevant, that I want to read directly. And that is, it says, beyond the troubling and deeply flawed nomination of Ms. DeVos is our president's inauguration speech, where he spoke about an education system flush with cash, but which leaves our beautiful students deprived of knowledge. He goes on to say, I'm not sure what schools President Trump is visiting, but I'm not aware of any public school systems that consider themselves flush with cash. I think that sounds more accurate than the statement that he quoted from the speech. So apologies to Director Pugh. Thank you for this statement, and I'll give it to Lloyd. All right, and with that, we'll move on to F8, action item appointments to the Measure L Citizens Oversight Committee.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight I bring 2 appointments to the Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure L. And just to let everyone know, we are currently, Measure I Citizens Oversight Committee is preparing their annual report that will be brought back to the board. And we have some additional members that we're waiting for applications for to fill out both committees that we think we'll be able to do in the month of February.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, move approval.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, seconded by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
You vote on it first.
Aye.
Sorry.
And Director Carl has a question.
No, finish the vote.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
You did it. It's done. I apologize. I should not have interrupted you before you started the vote. I had a question I wanted to ask Rick, so can I go ahead?
Remember the part when I said, are there any questions?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I know. I apologize. I said I didn't do this right. I still want my question answered. I've heard from a couple of, relative to the Oversight Committee and more relevant to the bonding and the projects that are this summer. I've heard from a couple of architects that they're not really sure what's going on right now, and with all the things that were expected, they would have expected to see things where they would be asking for work and participating, et cetera. So are we on track right now, or are we a little behind?
For the projects that we've talked about for this summer, we're on track with the lights, the field, and some of the HVAC and roofing work. Some of the larger projects, we're setting up the time frame to invite architects in, so the remainder will be brought in for those, the Montgomery and the possibility of Comstock.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
It's all right. Okay, thank you. And we're moving on to our last item, everybody's favorite, acceptance of the 2015-2016 Independent Audit Report.
Good evening and Happy New Year. I did put together a quick PowerPoint, but I'm not so sure if I'm going to try to put it up and connect and all that at this point in time. But I will speak to the audit and kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea of how things went. Really, I'd also like to touch on the audit process just really quickly, and then some of the things that you might not be used to seeing in the audit report. For example, statement of net position and statement of activities. And I won't take too much of your time, but I would like to leave you an opportunity to ask questions, okay? And to start, I'd like to say we're looking back, June 30, 2016. So I am a historian at this point in time, not only an accountant and CPA. And really what is of concern today from an audit point of view is net pension liabilities. And in 2014-15, there's a new governmental accounting standard that came out called GASB Statement Number 68, and that has required that every school district and every other local government record those net pension liabilities. And we move forward to June 30, 2016. We're at the second year of implementation, and these net pension liabilities are something that you don't see every day in your fund statements or in your budgets. You see the impact from these net pension liabilities in your annual required contributions and how those are going up for both PERS and STIRS, but you don't get to see what that looks like from a liability standpoint. So in the statements, in the audited financial statements, in the government-wide presentation, which by the way is the consolidation of all your funds, add in your long-term capital assets, and add in the long-term debt, and you get something called net position. Well, that net position is what's impacted by this long-term liability. So as of June 30, 2016, your school district had about $130 million net pension liability. That's an increase from 2015 number of $112 million, which is expected. The reason is the plans, again, didn't perform that well. They projected earnings to be at a certain point and did not achieve those projected earnings, even though you're paying in more contributions, right? There's some new terminology in these reports that you haven't seen before. The classic balance sheet is thrown out the window. You don't have the old accountant's favorite assets minus liabilities equal equity or fund balance. It's now assets plus deferred outflows of resources minus liabilities minus deferred inflows of resources equals net position. So it's a little bit more complex, and those deferred inflows and outflows, it's a made-up terminology by GASB, which makes it official. And really, all we're talking about is two things for deferred outflows. One is contributions that you pay this year don't count till next year. If you do have planned earnings that don't meet projections, well, guess what? That's a deferred outflow. And changes in earnings that actually do well, if you actually have more money come in than you expected, that would be a deferred inflow. So there's some examples of what those things are about. And they have significant impacts on your net pension liability. And so that's kind of where we're at today when it comes to government-wide presentation and net pension liabilities. Just keep in mind that as those rates keep going up, the annual required contributions keep going up, has a significant impact on your fund balance, right? And so that's the major concern. What is fund balance? What's it look like? Can we afford to pay those PERS and STIRS benefits? Something related to that, and another governmental accounting standard doozy, I like to say, is GASB number 75. So this statement is going to be very similar to number 68, except for it deals with other post-employment benefits, okay? So your other post-employment benefits, based on the June 30, 2016 report, you have an unfunded actuarial liability of about $24 million. Now you have a liability recorded in the statement of net position of about $12 million, but that's going to go away and get replaced at June 30, 2018 by this $24 million liability, which isn't exact for that time period. It's just an estimate at this point because we have to do more studies, and so in a couple of years you'll know exactly what that number is. But it's the number we have now to kind of figure out, okay, what's that going to look like? So that all leads to, in that government-wide statement, is a deficit net position. So a deficit, that's not something you want to hear when you're talking about government reporting, right? And so the thing about it is, welcome to the crowd. Most school districts in the state of California are reporting a deficit net position in their government-wide financial statements. If it's not total net position, it's the unrestricted portion that's deficit. It hasn't had a huge impact yet, other than to let people know where you're at with paying those contributions, right? Well, what's coming? But when it comes to bond rating agencies and whatnot, they are treating those differently than they treat your fund balance. And they take into account that future OPEB as well. Now, moving into some of the audit results, fund balance at June 30, 16. The fund balance as of June 30, 2016 did meet the minimum reserve requirement. If you project out that budget from the financial trend statement, yes, it doesn't look too good. $2 million deficit in the general fund projected for next year. That doesn't have a super significant impact on the audit because what we're looking at is lack of going concern would be 12 months from the date we issue the report. Looking out 1 year, the doors will still be open, the state won't be knocking on your door, and the county office shouldn't be coming in to take over, right? So from an audit perspective, we're okay right now, but of course those budget concerns have to be addressed as we move forward. We did have 3 findings this year in the report. One of them had to do with capital assets, and it was kind of a big deal. Capital assets in a government, what does it really mean? Well, it means you get to depreciate your assets that you have, but you don't get to record land at fair value. You have to record it at your original purchase price. So, but we're required to follow standards on that. We have to be able to substantiate those numbers as an auditor, and we were unable to do that. And because of that, we issued a qualification or a modification in the independent auditor's report, and that's the first finding. The second finding had to do with associated student body accounts, very common findings that you'll have at school districts. Very similar to the findings you had last year as well. We basically found the same types of things that were found in the previous audit. And let me give you a couple of those. Okay, well, I closed my PowerPoint, so I'm going to go to the audit report. Okay, here we go. So some of those findings that we had bank statements that were not reconciled within 2 weeks. Maybe a little bit strict from an audit point of view. We're talking about ASB cash, and ASB cash, you know, we've seen stolen before. I've had clients where we found $30,000 missing, turned out to be fraud. So from my point of view, I like to say, if you get a bank statement, reconcile it within 2 weeks. And if you need help with that, let me know. Cash was not deposited to the bank timely, which can lead to the possibility of cash being left on site over the weekend, increases the risk of fraud and error. Clubs are not completing their meeting minutes. ASB inventory is not counted in a routine and timely manner. Kind of generic, but that's what we're looking at. There are not any written rules or procedures in place for uncleared checks and deposits. Again, we're looking at bank reconciliations. And then we had some uncleared items that were not written off in a timely manner. And we're talking about 6 months for an ASB. And we realize that those checks can stay out there for a while. It really should be 3 months at the longest. So kind of really tic-tac kind of things. Not super significant, things that could be cleaned up and fixed. Now the third issue we had was, again, similar to a finding that we found, that was found in the prior audit, and that had to do with your unduplicated pupil counts. We had some issues with the free and reduced meal counts where we found some errors, and that led to a total question cost of, big number, $7,510. So not a huge number, but we're required to look at it, we're required to report it. It is money, and this is a very specific state compliance education audit appeal panel audit procedure that we have to follow. So those are the 3 findings that we had in the audit report. We did have some interim management points that we provided to the management at the time, and those were followed up on, and we felt like that they did implement some of those interim recommendations. And again, as we move forward as your auditor, we'll continue to make recommendations for improvements and try to help the district, improve on any efficiencies that there might be, and even help with the budget process if we see that there's an opportunity to do so. So any questions or comments or concerns?
By the way, this is Sheldon Chauvin.
Oh, my apologies. I did not introduce myself.
Questions from the board? Comments? No? Superintendent? Okay.
I move F9.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the report.
Absolutely.
Then we have to approve.
Oh, it's an action item.
Yes. Move approval of the audit report.
Second. A second.
Motion by Director Carl, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Okay, and Director Carl has a comment about this now,
After the fact.
after the fact.
If there's
Again.
one thing that's constant on this board and the audit reports is that there's always an ASB issue. The recommendation is that the business office operate training. Obviously, there's a person at each site who is responsible for ASB. I would hope that what we would do is call them all together, pull them in to the business office, and when we've got some time, with a little bit of focus elsewhere right now, but it would be really cool next year if we got an audit report that said nothing about ASB. It's a small thing, and I appreciate that the comment, it's small little items, it's ticky tack, but there is an element where, we're teaching kids. So it's another teachable moment.
No, that's an excellent point. We have already, are working with SCO, Sonoma County Office of Education, to provide training for all of our ASB staff. So that's well in the works.
Okay, thank you. That's a wrap.
That's right.